So what you have is this kid going to the caves. And why do you go to the caves? You're around Jewish folks. You ask them questions. They can't give you good answers. They disappoint you even further. You belong to a tribe. You ask them questions, but tribal philosophy no longer functions for you. Lonely, isolated, weak, abandoned by life, by God, if there is any. You find seclusion, relief in caves. And you wait, and you wait, and you wait, and all of a sudden you're 40. When did you start this journey? You were 15. How old are you? 40. How many years is that? 25 years. And all of a sudden something happens. You're chosen by God. Let's just say he's a crazy man even. But nevertheless, you think you're chosen by God. What do? Well, you go around, you push people around intellectually. You want to tell them that he has had an experience that no one has, that he is in fact the next prophet. For 10 years, he has 0 students, 0 followers, well, 3 or 4. 10 years. And then all of a sudden the numbers grow, larger and larger and larger. And then they migrate, they come back. Now they have an army of 10,000 people and they demolish their former neighbors. Now what you have is a community of Muslims. Now what happens when you're inspired by a belief system? You think you're right. What do? Well, your tradition says Abraham is the father of Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Why is it that the Jews have monopolized Jerusalem? Why have Christians monopolized Jerusalem? Well, let's go and talk to them. If initially they don't sit with us, like the Native Americans, we'll pick up bows and arrows. And now you have power, you have manpower, you have intellectual power, you're inspired by a certain belief system. Now you ram into different towns and countries and demolish them. And you say, listen, you either accept our faith for those who want to fight them, or we'll just get into a battle. With your own people as well as with foreigners. They had the biggest and the most powerful military at the time. And then comes the Christians, around the 12th century or so. Now they say, you know what? We're tired of being pushed around. And the truth is, you're not being pushed around by Muslims or Christians or this or that. It's power that's intoxicating. It's power that gives you the illusion of self-righteousness. It's power that removes you from humility. It's power where you grow contempt for other people and other things. And now it's Christian turns. You know, they go around now killing Muslims. You know, after that Muslims go to India and they kill the Sikhs. And everybody has a dirty hand, man. Everybody's hand is bloody. No one is exempt. You know. And so what you have is not so much the struggle between Muslims, Christians, and Jews. What you have is, you have different people at different times having power and trying to exercise that power, impose that power onto the weak, the innocent. That's how it is. I mean, our good friend here has had her hand up a few times. I haven't called on her. Well, that's mean. That's not right. Her hand is up, call on her. Hear what she has to say. But I have power. Maybe I've heard enough of her for the past 10 weeks. Who the hell knows? Maybe I don't find her comments interesting. Maybe I'm on a rule and I don't want to be interrupted. There are many reasons. But that's what power does. And the truth is, you have to kind of use your power in the wrong ways for a long time. And that's what we call a sin. You don't sin when you're weak. You sin when you're powerful. You sin when you have. You sin when you're privileged. Even intellectual sin, that you think that as a 20-year-old you know what's right, what's wrong. So you leave your parents, you spend your money, you spend your youth, you spend your energy, you're now 35, you realize you're poor, you have nothing. Well, you exercise your power. But because you're not a good student of life, because you don't listen well, because you have zero respect for anyone, what you do is you go out there, you use your power in all the wrong ways. Hello, hello, hello. And then at a certain point you say, okay, well, I messed up. And next time you have power, you're a bit more careful. You have some people like Hugh Hefner. There's no hope for people like that. But in defense of Hugh, my good buddy Hefner, I must say, you don't want to live in a studio for the rest of your life. You don't even want to live in a one-bedroom. You don't want to live in the worst parts of Oakland. You love a mansion. You would love a pond. You would love ducks roaming around your garden. You would like huge cypress trees. A beautiful house that smells good. And you wouldn't want violence near where you live. You wouldn't want poverty near where you live. You wouldn't want ugliness near where you live. So you know what you'll do? You'll invite the most attractive people to your place. Why? Because anything that's attractive to you inspires you. Hugh Hefner had the power and the privilege to always surround himself with beauty. He was a desperate man, and he had the money to somehow find a remedy for his desperation. He didn't want to hang out with 70-year-olds. It's not fun looking at wrinkles, man. It's not fun looking at people who are on crutches, because they make you think about your own mortality, about what's waiting for you. So what do you do to escape the realities of life? What the Buddha said. What do you do to never become aware of the fact that you're getting old, you're getting sick, and you're slowly walking towards your death? Hang out with young people, attractive young people. And depending on your own level of maturity, you may find attraction by someone's intellect. You may find attraction by someone being a loser, always whining, and you like to be a messiah, always healing them. You may find attraction in Snoop Dogg. I don't know what your level is. But whatever you're attracted, that is where beauty lives. And that is where you want to live all the time. Hugh Hefner surrounded himself with 20-year-olds. Good for him. He married 20-year-olds. Good for him. I, on the other hand, I have to tolerate ugly people. I have to tolerate my own ugliness. Why? I don't have the privilege to hang out with beauty all the time. I can't even know where to go to find them. I go to Costco. I find things that are beautiful. I got no money. So I go home, I pick a fight with my wife. You spent all my money. They brought this beautiful, Spider-Man Lego for $500. I want to buy it. But you just went to Safeway and bought $500 worth of potatoes. That's what it is. As an unprivileged man, I have resentment. I have anger. I want justice. Not Hugh Hefner. Hugh Hefner has the power to buy and sell beauty. Power. Do not be deceived by the media outlet. Do not even be deceived by books whose authors just write bad because they don't think. We like power, and we'll do whatever we can to get power. And because we are a novice, the moment you get power, you will exploit, use, abuse people with that power. And time needs to pass. And as a human being, you need to become seasoned. Once seasoned, then you say, you know what? I have $10. In and out is $5. I'll give the other 5 to this fellow over there. Something you would have never done when you were 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 or 40. That's what power does. This thing with Israel and Palestine. It's a complicated issue. But not going into history too far back, not talking about religion, it's just going to be tough if I was to just walk into where you live and just kick you out. It's always going to be difficult and leave a bad memory and taste in your mouth when I talk about redlining. That some places just don't welcome black people or brown people or yellow people. And just in case you are rich enough to buy a property where I live, you know what I will do if we live in a neighborhood that every house is worth 10 million? I'm going to talk to my friends and we're all going to leave. Now, you've spent 10 million on a house, but when I and my friends leave, that house is going to depreciate. It's going to go to about $100,000. You're not going to have fun with that. And you know who's going to start living in those houses? Not people like me. People with lots of drugs, lots of alcohol, people who can afford and want to be civilized, but their neighbors can't. The point I'm trying to make the Israeli-Palestinian issue very simple. Ask yourself if you would enjoy anyone coming to your house and kicking you out and then claiming your house as their own. It's as simple as that. Now, you can create laws, you can legislate stuff, it's not going to work. Because you're dealing with an emotion that goes back many decades. If you bring in religious ideas, thousands of years. And you can't even blame Israelis anymore because you're talking about a new generation now. You were born in Israel, you have your kids there, you have your wife there, you have your job there, you have your house there. You had nothing to do with all the stuff that took place in 1948. But now you're a victim of history, the way you and I are the victim of our own history. You're just a black kid going to Safeway wanting to buy some stuff. Everybody looks at you weird. Why? You're condemned by your history. I go to the airport. All I want to do is go visit my dying grandmother. My holes are checked. Everybody is a victim of their history. And so some Palestinian looks at this poor Israeli who's got no hand in any of this goddamn thing and says, well, you're occupying my land. And this poor 40-year-old Israeli with a wife and 5 kids says, listen, I am as much as a victim about this as you are. And you realize all of a sudden you're both consumed by emotions. Emotions you can't understand, and yet emotions that are intoxicating. What the hell do you do? Can't do much. And all you can do is just sit back and watch this horror show. And I'm not even bringing the West. I'm not even bringing the resources that the Middle East has. And the part Israel plays in all of this. None of that stuff I'm even bringing in. So, I came to this class in a good mood. Good morning, Abi. Yes.
Yeah, isn't Israel the promised land? And isn't that why the original reason why they're fighting for that land? And that's why the Jewish people wanted that land when after World War II. That's why America gifted Israel to the Jewish.
Initially, they had promised them California, but that didn't work out too well.
They promised the Jewish people California?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, that was not going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't care how much.
No, there are a couple of things you need to know about just the word Israel. I know this is a little out there. Just bear with me. It'll take no more than maybe a second. Now, I'm not quite sure if what I'm about to say is accurate, but this is what the books say, what scholars, some of them say. You can take it, you can leave it. It's just nice to have in your buffet. So what you have in Egypt is this goddess named Isis. She is the personification of wisdom. At a certain point in the Egyptian history, you have this pharaoh whose name is Aman-Ra or Akhenaton. Akhenaton happens to be one of those mystics, very self-involved sort of a pharaoh. And so he says, instead of worshipping Isis, let's worship Ra, who happens to be the sun god. Okay? So remember now, the Hebrews are freed and they find themselves in Palestine. Now, what you need to know about the ancient world is not like today where everywhere you go there is Yahweh and everybody believes in Yahweh. In the ancient world, people in different towns believe in different gods. So when they go to Palestine, they realize that these Palestinians have no idea who Isis is and have no idea who Ra is, but they have a god whose name is El. Now, the funny thing about Palestinians was that they believe that every god occupies a certain planet, and every planet has a certain color. So the planet of El is Saturn, and the color of Saturn is black. Okay. So what you have is for Isis, Ra for Amun-Ra, and El for Elohim. And what you have now is Israel, which is nothing but a combination of bringing together of three different deities from three different locations at different times. That's one way of looking at this. The other is the Arabic word for Israel, okay? It comes from two words, Esra and then El. Esra in Arabic, in Persian it's Asir, in Arabic it's Esra, which means chained to, enslaved to, held hostage. And El, of course, is God. So Israel means anyone who is chained to God, is a slave to God, is a servant to God. And when you look at that particular definition of Israel, you realize you don't really need to be a Jew or a Muslim or a Christian. If you're a Buddhist and you've understood what wisdom is and you're now wisdom's a servant, you are, metaphorically, an Israeli. If you are a Muslim, if you're an atheist, it doesn't really matter. If there is a piece of wisdom that has been given to you as a gift from above or below, wherever, okay, and you try to abide by that wisdom, you're a slave to it. And it's a good slavement. You're not a slave to your passion, you're not a slave to society, you're not a slave to your own illusion, deceptions, you're a slave to this wisdom that oozed out of you. Is this the promised land? Absolutely. Why? Because in Israel you will, if you get there, you will enter the fourth commandment, which is honor Sabbath. And Sabbath is a resting place. If I, as Malcolm X, can rest in wisdom, death is not going to disturb me. If I, as Socrates, can rest in love and wisdom, death is not going to disturb me. And many of you in this class have experienced this in a very cheap novice way. You fall in love. You're in the grips of inspiration. And you allow yourself to become victimized by love and the way it pushes and pulls at you. And when you rest in love, for example, you don't care if you miss your class. You don't care if you lose your job. You know, you have this anchor, this resting place in this thing called love. And so when you kind of look at the stuff in this way, you say, you know what? I don't care if they live in Palestine or Israel, if they're a Jew or a Christian or a Muslim or an atheist, gay, straight, whatever. Can they find wisdom within? Can they begin to become good students? Can they rest in that? Anyone else? Samuel, your hand was up. No, I'm done. It's finished, yeah.
I guess I remember asking you last time about Cardion.
Yeah.
But we talked about him, but not so much his your opinion on shadow, things like that.
Yeah, I don't know much about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you go over the wheel of reincarnation? Possibly. How like it actually works, not like metaphorically. Like the actual way that the Buddhist people think it works, not the metaphorical way.
Okay.
The actual conceptual. Because I think I learned it, but I want to know, I forgot how it actually works. Like,
Okay.
the actual way, though, not the metaphoric way.
I don't really know what the actual way is,
Okay.
but I can give it to you the way, you know, I just do things which is ridiculous.
Okay.
You give it the metaphor.
I want the actual way.
You know what? I'm just not going to give any of you anything.
No, there's an actual way it works that the Buddhist people actually teach it. There's an actual
It's
way.
true. There is a thing called the Wheel of Life.
It's a real thing.
It was created by
You know?
Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. There is a reason why there is violence in the world. Naomi?
Can you talk about what's your opinion on? I'm not sure who the author of the Tao Te Ching. Am I saying that properly? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The Taoism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it Lao Tzu?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your opinion on that? Like, you want water? Because I think I read it like a while ago, a long time ago.
Irinia.
Okay, okay.
No. The wheel, we can talk about the wheel. The thing is, the wheel is going to take me a while.
Okay, the next time. Athlete.
You guys forgot we were supposed to come to class and then talk about sex.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
See?
We can talk about sex.
No, but it's not. I can't be today. We don't have time. Yeah. I'm from the Middle East, so it's usually takes us a long time. Now, anyways, so Lao Tzu. Some people say he existed. Some people say he didn't. For those of you who are interested, and if you're not, you should be, because it's really great poetry. But the book I would encourage you to look at, hopefully to buy, only 500 hardbacks or hardback copies were printed. It's by a German guy named K.O. Schmidt. I think that's Schmidt. Something like that. And the commentary is beautiful. And his translation is also quite nice. I think it has about 84 chapters, if I'm not mistaken. You know, it's filled with bumper stickers. Like anyone who tries to be beautiful will turn out to be ugly. What?
What do you mean by that?
It's like every time I say something, your hand goes up and says, Professor, that was a mistake. Now you want to like tell the rest of us what an ass you are. I mean, asset to the class. because you're so wise. So every time your hand goes up, people here say, oh my God, him again. No. So you wanted to kind of inspire the rest of us, but without knowing, you've made yourself quite despicable. Yeah. Tao. Yeah. You may find this on PDF online, but I would recommend getting that for 15, 20 bucks. I mean, it's just a mocha with a few shots of garbage that you drink on a daily basis that costs 20. This will last you a lifetime. Yeah. His life is quite depressing. I mean, no one really knows his life except the ending, and that's, we don't even know if it's true. Allegedly, this is a guy who had been around, tried to give advice to people, was part of a politician at some point. At the age of 958, he says, I'm tired now. I hate people. I hate my country. I hate life. So he tries to just walk away from the whole thing, and someone recognizes him as he's leaving, and he says, wait a minute, you're that dude, aren't you? Just the way I'm telling it to you. And Lao Tzu says, no, I'm not that dude. He says, yes, you are, you're that dude. You're Lao Tzu, the great sage. Okay, yeah, okay. I'm not going to let you leave. Why? Look at me, I'm an old man. Just let me go and die in peace. No. Why don't you write down some of the things that are most valuable about human life, what we should know, and what we should do. And he sits somewhere for like 10 minutes, like a bee, creates this honey called the book of life. As farmers go, whose tasks are to plant seeds, this book will plant a many good number of seeds within you. But it doesn't mean that they'll ever sprout. It doesn't mean that even if they sprout, they will reach maturity. It doesn't mean that if they reach maturity, they will ever bear any fruits. Or even if they do, you will ever taste one. But as seeds go, it has some really, really, really beautiful ideas, and the commentary is exquisite. It's really quite beautiful. You need to understand that when you pick up a book that has this particular depth, whether it's the Bible, New and Old Testament, whether it's the Quran, you're talking about, specifically, let's just say Tao Te Ching. It's a book that's been around for a few thousand years. It means you want to be intimate, you want to have a relationship with something that's about 2,000 years old. They're not going to like Beyonce. They're not going to like the way you think about life. You're walking with a very, very, very ancient man or woman who has ideas that are just way, way beyond you. And that means the following. Atlas is a Greek god who carries the world on his shoulders. So when you read this book, what this book will do, it will burden you. If you're attractive, keep it hidden. If you're wise, don't talk about it. And if you desire to talk about it, it will always be indirect. And as such, you will always be misunderstood. I mean, that's a heavy burden to carry. And you're a young man, and if you were to take this relationship seriously that you will have with this book, Tao Te Ching, it means that from the age 20 till the time you die, you have to carry these ideas. And then you want to live up to the ideas, and you're going to fail. And that's another burden. And then you want to find a companion who likes this stuff. That's another burden. And this, in case you have children in this culture, you want your kids to gravitate towards this stuff, and they won't, and that's another burden. And then the question is, as a young man, should you hang out with Miley Cyrus, who doesn't ask you for much, or someone like Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, or Jesus Christ? If I was you, Miley Cyrus. You should always be aware of what you ask for. Yeah.
So can you talk about, like, I don't know it specifically, but I know in the Bible there's a story about like Cain and Abel. And I know in Buddhism there's like something called like moksha or something, which is, I feel like they're related. Because like how Cain becomes immortal and moksha is supposed to be like freedom from the life, death, rebirth cycle. Talk about that.
Cable and Abel, huh? The first dysfunctional family. Okay. I won't tell you the entire story, but I'll just give it to you in a very metaphoric way. God has given them both a piece of land. Cain's property is a bit bigger than Abel's. Abel has, 10 by 12 property. He's got trees, he's got goats, he's got fruits. It's quite lush. It's very prosperous. It's a very tiny piece of property. Cain's property is as big as Oakland. Just nothing grows. Imagine if you have 50 acres at the worst part of Oakland. How much is that worth? Like $1,000? Who's going to buy it from you? Who's going to build an apartment there and rent it out? No one. Imagine now you have, maybe an acre. Montclair, Snake Road, where the woods are. Just the land itself is about $2 million. And you say, but this is not fair. I have 50 acres worth nothing. I have an acre that's worth all this money. So there comes a point where Cain becomes really, really upset. Now, there is another way that you should look at. I think you should look at the characters Cain and Abel. You have someone who doesn't have very much, but they value what they have. Okay? And what little they have, it makes them happy. They're content. They're not angry. They're not jealous. They're not resentful. Then you have someone who has a lot. They're still miserable. Never enough. Okay? And the task is, if somehow you can tame your greed and lust, and just be okay with what little you have and find happiness in it, you will be like Abel. You have a girlfriend? All relationships have difficulties. There are going to be moments where you feel zero about your companion. But like Cain, you're not going to be jealous of your neighbor's wife. Why? Because you understand all relationships go up, come down. Go up, come down. You have good days, you have bad days. Okay? And oftentimes you have more bad days than good days, because that's just what life is. You could also think of it this way, that Abel is the rich young man in the Gospel of Matthew, I think, where he says, I own the entire world, but I'm also looking for the kingdom of God. That's Cain. And Jesus looks at him and says, well, get rid of, Oakland and just come and follow me towards the unknown. I can't do that. And then you have a few disciples who are metaphorically able. They had a wife and kids, let them go. They had jobs, they let them go. They have a tiny piece of property, and that property is Jesus Christ. But look at him. He is lush. He's like Costco, man. There is no one on the planet who will make you feel the way he does. And then you sit back and say, okay, well, who has more? The disciple who smells, who doesn't have clothes, who sleeps in a tent outside, or the guy who has a mansion but feels miserable every single day? And what you will eventually find is that there's also this other way you can look at it. Cain is your physical body. Abel is your spiritual body. Your spirit doesn't need very much. Your spirit doesn't care for the physical goods. Your spirit wants trees because they're a sign of life. Cain, your body, is always filled with desires and temptations. It's always reincarnating. Always. Desire is born, you pursue, you get it, you get bored, you're sad, you're dissatisfied, you move on to the next desire. You're just like a prostitute. Okay. And so what you have in this one story, at least this perspective, is Cain, your physical body, will always, always, always overpower your spiritual body. Always. You like this class. I know you know how to write well, because I know you know how to think well. But your body desires other places. And your body manipulates your psyche and makes it lazy, so you don't give me anything. And eventually, if there is any Abel inside you, who is reflective, inspired, creative, it gets demolished by the Cain. That's the story.
I like that. That King dies and comes back. That was good. That was deep.
Yeah.
I might take that.
All right, you guys, have a nice day. I'll see you Thursday. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.